Hello, Math 8. So today we're going to wrap up our lesson from yesterday because today's asynchronous. You still need your math book. Two things I'd probably recommend. Step one, make sure you've got your math book open to page 450. If you need it, make sure you've also got your calculator that I have assigned out, that you have that ready, that I have linked in first or fourth period. Remember, we're using the Desmos calculator to make sure that you're ready when star hits. So we're going to be using this one a lot too today. And then make sure you've got your Go Formative open, because we're also going to take a look at the homework together. So we're going to work through the lesson. I'll give you a chance to work it and check it. And then if you're remote, I'm also going to be working through the homework together with you to make sure you're understanding, because I tried to make sure it was in color in the formative, and I tried to put some start questions on there about what you realize about 2 points on a triangle. So at the end of today, I'm really hoping that you've got a really good grasp of slope. Remember, I also have study groups through Zoom, remote students, before and after school on Friday. All right, so I'm at 450 of your math book, and it says, Shelley read the rate of change from the graph shown as $1 to 2 tickets, or 1 for every 2. She plotted points on the graph, okay? Now that's why it was really important. Make sure you've also got your Delta Math slope homework completed so you can fully grasp what we're doing, because it's really important as a student that you can visualize on a graph what the rate of change is actually asking you for. So make sure you make your triangle on 450 so you can go across and see that I know that this is 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, and I can visually see that this is going over by 1/2, and that your y values are also going up by 1/2. That's really important, so that you're looking and you're seeing what those are. So even though this is 4 blocks, this is 4 times 1/2, or it has a value of 2 minus 0, just to get you visualizing what it's saying. Then I can come over and I can see that this is 1/2 times 2 blocks. So 2 blocks times 1/2, which gives you 1 for y. And that's how they got the rate of change, y over x, the change of y over the change of x. And that's how they got that this is equal to $1 over 2 tickets. Now it's going to ask you some questions about that. Number A, letter A, divide that out as a decimal. What's your rate of change? Okay, I'm going to zoom that in a little so it's a little clearer. B, why do you think Shelley did not read the unit rate from the graph? That's just an opinion. Why do you think that happened? Number 2, determine the rate of change. See if you can make your triangle. Remember, it's the change in y over the change in x. Write your rate of change. Then it says divide it out. Find your unit rate. What's your decimal or the number over 1? 4, can you use what you know about the rate of change or unit rate to find the cost of 10 items? Number 5, can you determine the cost of 20 items by doubling the cost of 10? So in other words, is this proportional? So is this graph proportional, yes or no? And then number 6 says, do you prefer the original rate of change or unit rate? Okay. And then one more unit rate practice. See if you can find the rate of change from that graph. Make sure you show your work by drawing in your book, okay? And then divide it out. What is your unit rate on number 7, okay? So I just want you writing your triangle for 7, writing your triangle for 2, and following the directions, and then simplifying what we just did here, where we found our change in y over our change in x. So I want you working on page 450 to 452. So go ahead and pause the video, and when you're ready to go, press play. Okay? All right, so you're promising me right now that you have in fact worked through this. So if I divide $1 over 2 tickets, that's going to be 50 cents per ticket, right? 50 cents per ticket. Then it says, how can we think she didn't read this from the graph? Because there's not really good points at half. It's easier to always read the rate of change. It's easier to find the rate of change from the graph than it is to actually try to simplify it all the way down. So that's why I always say find your change in y, it's on top. Find your change in x by subtracting the values and dividing. Excuse me. And then write it as a fraction and simplify it down. Okay, let's look at number 2. Here's another guy. Same, if I look at the x-axis, same rate of change. It's going over by 1/2. This is your independent variable, remember. That's your dependent variable is y. Over by 1/2. Then I'm going to come over here. This is going to also be, I can see that there's gaps, so up by 1/2. Okay, and I need to find 2 points to make my triangle. So I'm going to use 0, 0. Hopefully you see that this is a proportional and a positive graph. So proportional and positive. So I'm going to put a point at 0, 0. 1's not a good one, 1.5's not a good one. I'm going to probably use 2. So I'm going to put another dot at 2. And then I'm going to shade this in. Okay. All right, so I need to find, I know that the rate of change or slope is y over x. I need to find the change in y over the change in x. So if I come on over, I know that this is 1, 2, 3 blocks up times 1/2, and that's 1.5. I could also get that from coming over, since it's proportional, and subtracting the 1.5 minus the 0. That would also give me the 1.5. Okay? Then I can come over and say that's my y value is 1.5. Then I need to come over and say this is going to be 2. So my x value would be 2. It's going 4 blocks, and each value has a value of 1/2. Okay? So 1/2 of 4 means that this is going to be 2. So to find that's my rate of change. Okay? Now to find my unit rate, I have to divide that amount. So I have to come over. This is my rate of change. And then to find my unit rate, I have to go ahead and divide that number out. Okay? So that means that this would be 75 cents per ticket. And that just means for one ticket, it costs 75 cents. And this is what I call my unit rate. Now, if I do my unit rate, and I know that one ticket is 75 cents, then I can really easily figure out how many 10 tickets would be. Okay? Oh, before we do that for 3, it costs $1.50 for 2 tickets, which is about 75 cents per ticket. Then what's the cost of 10 items? I can say it's 75 cents for 1 ticket. Then I want to know the cost of 10 tickets, or 10 items, sorry, not 1 ticket, 1 item. Sorry about that. For 2 items. And then remember from last year, you can say, oh yeah, 1 times what gives you 10? 1 times 10. Then I got to say 75 cents times 10 means my answer would be $7.50, right? So $7.50 would be my answer. Now it says, is this graph proportional? So can you determine the cost of 20 items by doubling the cost of 10? Yes, you could, because the graph is proportional. And just to remind you what that means it is a straight line graph. So a straight line graph through 0, 0. Straight line graph through 0, 0. Okay? That's why it's proportional. Now, I typically, when I'm trying to use the unit rate, I will use the unit rate to scale up or scale down. But it's really important as a math student that you know this is always the y over the x, the change in y over the change in x. Okay, so 6 was more an opinion question. I typically use the unit rate because it's easier. Now let's take a look at the next one. Calculate the rate of change from the graph shown. Plot points on the graph to show the values you need for the rate. So before I even make my triangle, I need to study. So what is x going over by? What is y going up by? So what's x going over by? What's y going over by? So if I look, I can see that there's some spaces here. So it's going over by half. So 1.5, 2.5, 3.5, 4.5, 5.5. So you're going over by half or 0.5. And then I'm just going to fill in a little bit. I don't have to go all the way across. Just want to make sure we got it. And then I have to figure out what I'm going up by. So there's a space here. So I can come over and see that this is going up by 20s. So I can see this would be 20, 0, 20, 40. And I'm just, as a math student, going to fill these values in by adding, 20 every time. So it should be 180, 220, 260, 300, 340, 380. Okay? So this is my y-axis scale, and this is my x scale. Now I have to figure out 2 points. So we need to figure out 2 points. I can also see, I noticed 2 things. 1, this is a proportional graph. And 2, it's a positive slope. All right, so I need to find 2 points to put a dot on. So I'm going to put a dot at 0, 0. And then I'm going to come over and try to find another point that's really good. So 1, not quite. 1.5, not quite. 2, not quite. This looks perfect. So I'm just going to come down. Even though it's 2.5, it's still a great place to find my slope. Change in y, change in x. Now I could either count the blocks up and see that this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks up. Okay, and I can multiply that by 20. So I can see that 160 would be my change in y. Or I could subtract my y value is 160 minus 0 to get my answer. Okay, now I can also come over, and now I need to find my change in x. So I know this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? So I know it's 5 times 0.5. So that's going to give me 2.5. And a lot of you might have already seen that and said, Mr. Al, this is already 2.5 because this is directly variated. It's proportional. So I already know that this is going to be my change in x. Okay? So to bring this all together for the rate as a unit rate, I know that my slope is always equal to the change in y over the change in x. And that's equal to 160 divided by 2.5. And then I'm going to use my calculator. I know that 160 divided by 2.5, is going to give me 64. So this would be 64 miles per hour. I know it's positive because if I draw my little guy here, he's climbing up. So it's positive slope. All right, now let's keep practicing. Don't get stressed out. You can totally do this. We did these last semester, okay? Just a different way of looking at non-proportional graphs. Now we're looking at non-proportional, which is great. So I want you to try 1A and 1B on your own. Okay. Or you know what? We might do 1A together, and then I'll let you try 1B and ask you if it's similar or different. Then we're going to do 2A together, and I'll let you try 2B. And then we'll take a look at that, come back and see, do you remember what positive and negative rate of change are? And how can you tell from the graph whether the rate of change is positive or negative? All right, so let's do some investigating. Okay, so we're going to do 1A together, and then I'll let you try 1B. What's my first step? Highlight my x-axis. I know that independent variable is x. That's the number of pieces of fruit. I can look and see that this is going over by tens. That's my scale. And I might, just as a math student, want to fill that in. Okay. Then I can take a look at my y-axis, y to the sky. And I can take a look and see that there's gaps here. And this is going up by 2's. Okay, zoom this way in a little bit more. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. And I'm just going to fill this in. Make sure that's all the way to the top. Now remember, my steps have not changed. This is non-proportional, first of all, because it does not go through 0, 0, but it is linear. And I know that it also has a positive slope. So non-proportional and it's positive. All right, so I still need to find my change in y over my change in x. So I need to make my triangle. So I'm just going to connect the points they gave me together. Shade that in a little bit more. Okay. I'm going to put y because that's my rise, right? X because that's my run. All right, now I know y is going up by 2, so I just have to count by 2's. So I could say 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's 4 blocks up times 2, so that gives me 8 on top. Then I can come over to x and say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks over. I know this is going over by 10s. So 6 times 10 is going to give me 60. Notice it did not say unit rate, because if I divide 8 by 60, I'm going to get this insane number for my slope, for my rate of change. So rate of change is what you have that's unsimplified. So you just leave it like this. Now I also could have come down and said 60 minus 0 gives me 60 on the bottom. I could subtract my x values, and I could come over and say 28 minus 20 also has a value of 8. So you could have visualized it like this too and gotten the same answer. Okay. Now you try B on your own. Pause the video. And C says the two graphs look alike. How come they show different rates of change? Okay. There's a clue in there somewhere. So pause the video and see if you can do B and C on your own. And then when you're ready, press play. All right, so hopefully you've actually attempted this, because it's very important when we do slope that you practice. Just gonna highlight my X, highlight my Y, and then I can come over and I can see that this scale is different. It's not going over by tens. This is going over by, you guys see it? Half of 2 is 1. It's going over by ones. Okay, so I'm going over by 1. I look at Y, I go up. Oh, look at that. It's also going up by ones. Okay? For my y-axis. All right, so same thing. It's still going to be the change in y over the change x. I can see that it's non-proportional and it's positive because it doesn't go through 0, 0 because it's going up. Then I'm going to make my triangle. And then I'm going to shade this in. All right, I can come over. I need to find my rise. I know that y is going up by 1, so this is easy, like the delta math last night. 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks up. And then I have to count over, and this is going to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks to the right. I don't have to multiply anything because it's going over by 1, which is nice. So my answer is just 4 over 6 because we're just doing rate of change. We're not doing unit rate. Okay? Now it says why, even though they look the same, you know, why are their rates different? Well, there's a couple different things. You can see the biggest thing is the scale is different. You're going over by 20 here, and you're going up by 2. On B, you're just going over by 1 and up by 1. So I'm just going to put the scales are different. The scales are different. Now let's try a negative rate of change together. Okay, so if you flip it over, same idea. I'm going to highlight my orange. I'm going to highlight my y-axis. Then I need to figure out what we know about it. Okay, so first of all, it's non-proportional. And this time I can see the line is going down. So this is going to be a negative rate of change. Negative rate of change. I'm going to zoom this way in. Now I need to figure out what my x-axis is doing. Okay, so I can come over and see, oh, look, there's a space. So 0.5. I divide 1 by 2, and that's what I got 0.5. So 0.5, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5. So I'm going to say x-axis over by 1/2, or 0.5. Then I need to look at my y-axis. What's happening there? And real quick. Okay. So I can come up and I can see that there's a break between 0 and 3. So that means that this means it would be 3 over 2, or the y-axis is up by 1.5. Okay? That's important. So 1.5, 3, 4.5, just so we got it. Now, same thing. I'm going to do the change in y over the change in x. So I'm still going to need to make my triangle. And then I need to figure out my y value. 2 ways to do that. I could subtract 24 minus 18. Okay? And then I could subtract my corresponding x values. Or I could count my blocks up. So I could see 1, 2, 3, 4. And then multiply that by 1.5. So I could say 4 times 1.5, and that's going to give me 6. Okay? Then I can come over. I need to count this distance across. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks across times, and I can see that that scale is 1/2. That's 8 times 1/2, which gives me 4. 6 over 4 would be my rate of change. Okay? I also could have come in and said 4 minus 0. So I could have done this a different way, and I could have said 24 minus 18 over 4 minus 0, and then a formula, which we're going to talk about more on Friday when we're together. Either way would work. Now, here's the challenge. Well, it's not really a challenge. I'm pretty sure by now this is starting to click because we did this last semester, we did it. So try B on your own. Try C on your own. Number 3, what are your rates for this? Okay, and also what kind of slope is it? How do you know if something's positive or negative? What does the rate of 0, the slope 0 look like? Okay, and you can cross off G on 455. You don't have to do that one at all. Okay. Then it says, we might do this as a warm up on Friday, because I want to make sure you have time for homework. So we're going to talk the top Friday. So see if you can do 454 to 455. So page 454 to 455. And then when you're ready, you're going to press play. All right, so I'm going to come over, same idea, highlight my y-axis, highlight my x-axis, and I can go over and I can see that this is going over. There's a space here. Oh, and I need to make sure I know that it's non-proportional and that it's negative, because I need to make sure I have a negative in my final answer. All right, so I can see that this is 0.5, 1.5, 2, 2.5. So I know this is over by 0.5 for x. And then I can look up and I can see there's a space between 0 and 6. So this is actually going up by 3, over by 1/2, and up by 3. Okay, now it's still the same thing. It's still the change in y over the change in x. And I'm just going to move my pencil over and up. Okay, and I can go over and see that my change in y is going to be 1, 2, 3. So it's 3 blocks times a value of 3. So now it's 3 blocks up. That means y is going to have a value of 9. Oh, you know what I forgot on the top part? You guys would have told me this for in class. That these should be negative. Sorry about that. Negative 6 over 4. So that means my answer should be negative 9 right here. Down. All right, so then if I count over, this is going to be a value of 12 times 1/2. Okay, so 12 times 0.5 means my answer is going to be 6. So negative 9 over 6. Okay, and then it says, how could they show the same rate? Because if I simplify negative 6 over 4, I get negative 1.5. And if I simplify negative 9 over 6, I also get negative 1.5. Okay, so it gives you the same rate. There's just different scales. Now the next page you should have hopefully flown through. You're like, I got it, Mr. L, it's not a problem. Like number 3 is positive. It's going up and over by 1. So I'm like, boom, this is so easy. This is so fantastic. I can totally do this. Just going to go down like I was doing delta math. I could see that x would give me 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 blocks up is y. So my rate of change is just 8 over 4. And for bonus points, we could have simplified that and gotten 2. For B, I know it's negative. Same idea. I'm just going to make a teeny tiny little triangle. And I can see that this is going over and up by 1. So y is 1, x is 1. So your slope is equal to negative 1 over 1 is your rate of change. Negative 1. Hopefully you remember on this one that the rate is 0, because you could count over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 over 0 because it's not going up at all. I mean, it's 0 over 8. And you can see that your slope here is 0. And then 9D, there's no rate. Okay, it's undefined. Then how can you tell if a graph is going to be positive or negative before determining the rate? This, if you're looking left to right, this is positive slope. And if you're looking down, this is going to be negative slope. Think about your little guys climbing up on the left. You go to the left side here, draw your little guy on top, and he's sliding down. Okay, if it's equal to 0, it looks like that. It's not going up or down, not going up, or down. Okay, so today, I'll put these notes up later today. I also have face-to-face tutorials Friday before and after if you need them, and Monday before and after. And your homework tonight isn't a formative. So what you're going to do is we're going to ask you for, we can't see it. It's going to look like this, not types of slope. I'm sorry, let me go back. It's going to look like this, 9-1, day 2 homework, where we're going to ask you to find your rate of change that looks like this, where you have to pace through it and see. Okay, what's your rate of change for y over x? Don't simplify it. Simplify it for 2. Use it to scale up 75. And then I have it in color. What's your rate of change without simplifying it? And then B, what's your rate of change without simplifying it? Then if you simplify both fractions, what is it? And then the same thing here. What's your rise over your run? Where you're looking at the scale, what's your rise over your run? Okay, and then 11 is multiple choice. So see how much of the homework you can get done, hopefully all of it, because I'd like to start class with this and talk the talk. Reach out if you need anything, and have a great rest of your day. Yes.